Simple, reliable Youpi. One of the few chimera ants who was not composed of any human DNA whatsoever. In fact, Youpi was born of a mixture of chimera ant and the subscribe button for the New World Review, which does explain the red coloring and means that successfully landing a hit on Youpi will grant you all regular Hunt Hunter content uploaded straight into your YouTube feed. And don't worry, I'm sure it's not too difficult to smash that Youpi. I mean, maybe. You know what, just let me know how you all go with that. Hello and welcome to the New World Review, your source for everything anime and manga, and more specifically, welcome to Hunter Hunter 101, the series that breaks down everyone and everything in the Hunter Hunter world. And today we are going to be taking a gander at the youngest member of the Chimera Ant Royal Guard, a man who can be described as rage incarnate, Men-Thutha Youpi. Men-Thutha Youpi, who from here on out will only be known as Youpi because that name is just too painful to keep saying, thank you Togashi, is a demonic-looking Chimera Ant fellow who was created by the original colony ant queen in order to serve the eventual King Meruem. In this effort, Youpi has the initial distinction of actually being the only member of the Royal Guard who, despite his human-ish exterior, did not inherit any human DNA whatsoever. Rather, Youpi was born through a mix of Chimera Ant and magical beast genes. And as a result of that, Youpi isn't constrained by all of those annoying human tendencies, and he comes across as the most simplistic and instinctual of his contemporaries, not burdened by unnecessary thought and always focused on his particular goal, making Youpi initially completely selfless and devoted entirely to the king without the pesky emotions felt by Shayapoof or Neferpita, for example. However, it should be noted that the one prominent emotion Youpi was prone to feeling was anger. Actually, you know what? Anger is a bit of an understatement. I would go with fury or even all-out rage to describe that thing in which Youpi engages in, which is generally expressed during combat. These capacities made Youpi an exceptional soldier though. However, it did lead to a lot of difficulty when interacting with the other royal guards and even the king himself, as he was often confused by their various eccentricities. Not only that, but Youpi's natural mental capacities were even mocked by lesser chimera ants such as Welfin, who was able to successfully extract information from our Crimson Royal Guard. So Youpi's not quite adept in the area of deception, we'll say. But as previously stated, Youpi's true area of specialty was pure combat, and it would be put on full display when Meruem's palace was invaded by the extermination team just prior to the ants conducting their selection process with the entire population of East Gortur. And as luck would have it, Youpi would be the very first one to encounter the bulk of their forces, at which point Youpi's simplicity became an exceptional advantage as he ceased all thought and began functioning as a very primal being with but a single purpose. He was simply a shield to protect the king. At which point Youpi also grew a ton of extra arms thanks to his natural mastery of the art of Nen. And just in terms of this, Youpi is an enhancer, which is unsurprising because enhancers are usually the punch now, think later types. But as with all of the royal guards, Youpi also had a natural mastery of the other classifications of Nen as well, leading him to develop a crazy series of Hatsu, some of which are very difficult to classify actually. And one such example would be Metamorphosis, which is the aforementioned technique that allows Youpi to spawn extra arms, but it doesn't quite stop there, as Youpi actually appears to be capable of morphing his body into whatever he wants, really. For example, after sprouting extra arms, Youpi then turned his arms into 6 tentacle-like structures in order to attack, relentlessly I might add, at range, which would involve invoking other areas than simple enhancement. But Youpi has also been shown capable of growing extra eyes around his body, as one does, in order to effectively eliminate any blind spots whilst engaging combat. Furthermore, Youpi can even transform parts of his body into projectiles like spikes and fire them at opponents, and I mean really, there is theoretically no limit to what Youpi can perform with his power. Except for his aura, I guess, which was estimated by Knuckle to be a minimum of 700,000 units. A truly staggering amount, which to put into some context, the Sea Hunter Moral, one of the more superb Nen masters amongst the Hunter Association, allegedly holds an aura reserve of roughly 70,000 units. So Youpi is just casually sitting 10 times above that, and therefore has a fair ton of aura to play with right there. And these abilities were put to immediate use against Youpi's first primary opponent, a hunter by the name of Shoot. However, despite Shoot being a powerful hunter in his own right and achieving a newfound state of enlightenment during the battle, Youpi would go on to dispatch him with great ease. Well, you know what, actually that's probably giving Youpi far too much credit, really, because despite the incredible disparity in general ability between the two across the board, Youpi would grow extraordinarily frustrated that he was unable to end the conflict as swiftly as his power would dictate he should. But a lot of that was due to a quite positive aspect of our Royal Guard, which was simple caution. During the battle, Youpi was inflicted with a hit from Shoot's Hotel Rafflesia, which replaced one of Youpi's now many eyes with a black void. And whilst not inflicting any damage in and of itself, this greatly annoyed and confused Youpi, as well as made him very wary of the great unknown of Shoot's abilities. As a result of this, Youpi felt like he was completely unable to let loose in combat, seeing it as a reckless endeavor that held a mild chance of endangering not only him, but much more importantly, the king. And rather ironically, not to derail the topic of this video, but Shoot was the one in this fight who began acting recklessly, taking advantage of Youpi's hesitance to really go full force for the first time in his life, whilst Youpi adopted Shoot's more timid persona, for a brief period anyway. But this is something I personally quite love about Youpi, because it can be very easy to dismiss him as a dumb, brawny power guy, but there is a lot going on behind the scenes in Youpi's mind, and he is a much more strategic player in this grand game of life than he often gets credit for. And a similar response was garnered from Knuckles' Hakawara, because once Youpi noticed it was attached to him, this made him very wary and also very angry. Very angry. Oh, ever so angry. Which brings us to another one of his Hatsu known as Rage Blast, whereby he engorges his body with pure rage and unleashes it as an incredible destructive explosion via the wonderful realm of emissive Nen. And after engaging in this attack, Youpi felt great pleasure, followed by a profound sense of empty despair. And it would be at this moment where Youpi had a very important moment of growth. After realizing the power that his fury holds, Youpi made a conscious decision to control his rage rather than become consumed by it, all in order to better serve the king. And he would come to master his fury quite quickly and even channel it into a third Hatsu dubbed Rage Incarnate. And by channeling all of his aggression, which previously resulted in an explosion, Youpi was now able to transform his body into a centaur-like creature, becoming much faster, which is already insane to think about, but more importantly, he was able to more efficiently wield his rage in a precise and controlled manner, rather than simply letting it all loose like an explosion. It's kind of like the initial basic principle of Nen, really, whereby the first step is to channel one's aura in order to prevent it from constantly escaping the body. Youpi learned to do exactly that, just with the substance of rage rather than aura. And with his collective of power, Youpi went on to decimate everyone who stood in his way, with the notable exception of Killua, whose Godspeed ability was able to outclass Youpi, although Killua was unable to use it to inflict any real damage to the ever-tanky Royal Guard. More importantly though, these subsequent fights against Killua, Knuckle, and Moral brought about a new sensation of selfishness within Youpi, as he was greatly enjoying the experience of combat. So much more that he even played along with Moral's smoke troops, even after he spotted Moral himself. And this was a trait that Youpi did not previously possess, as he lived only for the sake of the king, and dare I say it, Youpi had now developed an intriguingly human quality. Selfishness is of course paramount amongst humanity. What's more though is despite his utter dominance, Youpi also came to greatly respect and admire the abilities of his opponents, even going so far as to call them amazing. However, this did conflict greatly with his designated mission as a member of the Royal Guard, as his chimera ant nature urged Youpi to kill his opponents right then and there. However, he had become somewhat enlightened through facing their various Nen abilities and was no longer able to perceive the world from his prior simplistic views, having attained a true level of intellectual evolution. And he then went on to engage in diplomacy, in which he struck a deal with Knuckle to spare Moral's life in exchange for Knuckle removing Hakawara, which was threatening to, very eventually, render Youpi in a state of Zetsu. And after this surprisingly peaceful resolution to all of this combat, Youpi decided to depart, sparing all of their lives, and even invited them to challenge him once again, claiming that they would face off against each other as equals. Oh, and then he just grew some wings because, once again, Youpi can do crazy stuff like that. However, sadly, Youpi would never receive the chance to face off against the humans he came to greatly admire. Because after making his way to the king, Youpi found Meruem in, how shall we put it, a state of disrepair following his battle with Isaac Netero. And in order to revive him, Youpi liquefied his cells and fed most of his body to Meruem, as did his fellow Royal Guard Shiapoof. As a result, the king made a full recovery, but Youpi was left as a teeny tiny chibi Youpi, no longer capable of wielding his once immense power, and very unfortunately he also became infected with the secondary effect of the poor man's rose, the explosive device that was activated upon the death of Netero, and after receiving a lethal dose of said poison, Youpi would suddenly pass away in the presence of Welfin back at Meruem's palace, thus ending the short and simple, yet incredible and somewhat inspiring life of Menthutha Youpi. Some more fun facts about Youpi. Youpi's full name, like all of the Royal Guards, is a combination of the name of an Egyptian god, as well as a character from a French children's book series, which I always butcher due to my lack of culture, known as Caroline et ses amis. And in this case, Menthutha Youpi comes from the god Montu and the character of Youpi, respectively. Youpi, as with most Chimera ants, comes with a fantastic array of statistics according to the Hunt manual, scoring a perfect 5 out of 5 in the areas of skill, body, and Nen throughout his tenure in the series. And very notably, in the late stages of the palace invasion, Youpi's mind score score went up to a perfect 5, and his intelligence was even raised from a 3 to a 4, although apparently his ingenuity did suffer, being reduced from a 4 to a 3. While Youpi's shapeshifting abilities do not fit any of the standard name classifications, an explanation for this might be the fact that Youpi is part magical beast and is using inherited shapeshifting power in combination with his enhancement focused aura. But having said that, there is a greater discussion to be had here about what exactly magical beasts are, because Hunter x Hunter is a world that has become very strictly ruled by the concept of aura, and it's also entirely possible that all magical beasts are simply unconscious Nen users. In which case, we kind of land ourselves back in the exact same position of not really being able to explain most of Youpi's abilities. I mean, at best, you could probably make the argument that it is an extreme form of enhancement and maybe manipulation, but it's on a fairly unheard of scale for Hunter x Hunter, and even then the prior examples of bodily manipulation like say Bisky also fall into an unexplained category. As with many characters in Hunter x Hunter, Youpi does appear to draw inspiration from other works, in this case with Mr. Crimson Ant bearing striking similarity to the character of Goto, the main antagonist of the Parasite series, with very similar core abilities actually, as well as the aesthetic similarities. And finally, a truly useless fact. In chapter 287, it was said that the amount of time left before Youpi would go bankrupt was 3 minutes and 50 seconds, whilst also showing the amount of aura on APR as 60,610. And because APR compounds aura every 10 seconds, Youpi's maximum possible aura remaining at this point in the fight would be worked out by the following equation, which results in 542,720 units of aura. However, since the narrator stated that Youpi had less than 500,000 aura left, then this would mean that the true time was somewhere between 3 minutes and 40 seconds and 3 minutes and 50 seconds, yielding this equation as a much more accurate guess, which results in 493,382 units. So more precisely, the time left before Youpi would go bankrupt was around 3 minutes and 41 seconds, and that is quite possibly the longest and most useless fact I have ever stated in one of these videos. But that pretty much does it for Youpi. But what do you guys think? Please do leave your thoughts in the comments below, or even join my Discord server. And if you're keen for some more Hunt x Hunter content, then please do go and check out some of my other videos, or even subscribe to the channel for regular Hunt x Hunter glory delivered straight into your YouTube feed. But for now, this has been the New World Review, and I'll see you next time.